Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to tell you guys the 5 reasons, and they are going to be in order, why I went from my Ford back to a GM truck. I say back to because, well, I'm a giant hypocrite. Years ago, I had a 2015 GMC Sierra, and I swore that I would never buy another GM truck because of what I thought were massive problems with that truck. That truck did suffer from what they called the Chevy shake. Mine, from maybe like 60 to 70 in that range miles per hour, just had this vibration that would never go away, and it was so annoying. I went through a whole bunch trying to get that truck fixed. Nothing ever fixed it. So that kicked off the whole reason as to why I said, like, man, I'll never go back to GM. I was really burned by that entire experience. So that gets me to reason number 5 that I went back to a GMC after I said never again. And that is, well, the Ford F-150 that I replaced it with was way worse. I had that truck for a short period of time, and within the first few months, the radio, or the main APIM, the screen went out, and I had to get a replacement module for that. Not a huge deal, but it was annoying. And then after that, there was an EGR cooler. The truck stopped running. It was going into limp mode. It was just a terrible experience. And they also gave me a Ford EcoSport, which is like the trashiest, crappiest Ford you could possibly buy. That was my loaner car, while my $70,000 pickup truck was in the shop for what was basically what seemed like months. Then after that, the transmission went out. It was in the shop again. And that was actually leaving me stranded on the side of the road. So that reason number 5, basically the Ford ended up being a bigger nightmare than the GMC was. So reason number 4 that I wound up back in a GM truck is, when this all happened, this was kind of on the heels of Toyota with their new generation Tundra having the recall where they replaced every single twin turbo V6. There were a lot of reliability concerns for me with that new platform, and I was not interested. Toyota Tundra was out. I also not really a huge fan. It's growing on me a little bit, but I still don't love the new Tundra look. And then Stellantis, Ram. Just a lot of uncertainty with Stellantis and the direction of Ram. I hate the direction that Stellantis is going. I love the interiors, the exteriors. They're actually getting a little wonky on the exteriors of those trucks, but my options were pretty much gone at that point. Cybertruck, scrap the entire thing, just keep the pickup bed. Do you remember the Lumina APV? Bring that in. We've got this. We're on to something. Bring me the back end of an Aztec. Bring me another. Give me another Aztec. We've nailed it. This is it.
I'm not telling you.
Now make it monochromatic. We want to make sure it doesn't look like we just scabbed together a bunch of old failed vehicles. I just got to clean up a couple edges here. Do you guys remember the DeLorean?
What the f is happening?
I want to see what this thing looks like in stainless steel. We've done it. Not a chance. So reason number 3, the Duramax, the 3.0 baby Duramax that's in these trucks, really got me interested in this whole platform again. The idea of a diesel and not going to a heavy duty, I just don't need a heavy duty, not at this point in my life. I thought, like, man, that diesel sounds like a pretty compelling option. I started watching some reviews. At that point, Tim from Pickup Trucks and SUVs Talk had, I think, a diesel, or was just getting out of it at that time. And he had a lot of good things to say, just a lot of really good things to say about that diesel. So it started piquing my interest to go back towards these the GMC Sierra. I don't totally love the Silverado. For some reason, the interior to me, just it's not there. But the Sierra, absolutely. So I started back looking at the GM trucks again, and I'm like, man, what am I doing? I said I would never do this. Number 2, as I started looking at these trucks and just doing a little more research, as we all do when we're buying any of these vehicles, I started to see a lot of comments that the 10-speed transmission, which is basically shared amongst all of these brands at this point, was tuned so much better from GM. That was one thing I hated about the F-150, was that transmission was just real harsh in its shifts. Those firm shifts are really nice when you're romping on the truck, but when you're just kind of like at a casual pace, cruising around with a family, and the transmission's kind of like jerking into gear, it's just not all that comfortable. So I started thinking about, yeah, maybe that's a good reason to go back to GM as well, is that maybe their transmission tuning is that much better. Now, reason number 1, Wu-Tang Clan said it best. Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bill, yo. I also qualify for the GM family discount. My uncle down in Nashville works for General Motors. So with that, I get incentivized to go towards a GM. Now, I said that I would never do it again because of the problems that I had. But
Get the money.
money talks. And when you go in, you know, when I took my F-150 in and started, basically, I drove it to the dealership one day and I was like, if this trade works out where they're going to give me more money than what I owe on the loan, it's a done deal. And that's exactly what happened. They gave me more than what I owed on the truck. And then on top of that, I got the GM family discount, which is pretty substantial. And that basically meant that I was getting so much off of this truck that I wasn't upside down on it from day one. I also put some money down on it too. But with that, my payments came down like $200 a month, I want to say it was, or maybe just a little bit under that. So it was also cheaper. Now, in my experience, this truck has been way better to own than the Ford. I've got 10,000 miles on this truck. It does have to go into the dealership soon just to get there's a recall for a computer reprogramming flash, nothing mechanical with the truck. I think it has to do with the battery draining issue that was going on with these trucks a while ago. So with that, this truck has been ultra reliable and it's been an absolute pleasure running down the road. Now, I am a little bit concerned. There are some reports on these things about a fuel pump module going out. I think is it, what's the tow truck driver? Dustin, I gotta look it up now. I'm gonna shout out his channel. Tow Truck Dustin. He actually has had quite a few videos of this platform truck picking it up on the side of the road because the fuel pump module underneath the truck goes out. For the longest time, I was only seeing that on the V8s, but I do think that I saw him towing one of the diesels for that same problem. So that's a bit of something I am a little bit concerned about that we'll see in the future if that becomes an issue or a recall from GM. Apparently, it's a well-known problem, but that's really the only concern I have with this truck is that potential module going out. The diesel has been ultra reliable. DEF, don't care. Honestly, DEF has been one of the most non-issue things that I've had to adapt to in terms of the truck. Costco sells those 2.5 gallon jugs for like $13, and I put them in, I don't know, once every 2,500 miles. When you're on a road trip, you do need to use more of it. When I went from Phoenix to Boulder, that back and forth, I did get caught with having to buy a jug at a rest stop, which costs like $28 when you could buy the same jug at Costco for $13. So that is something where, yeah, if you're gonna go on a road trip, keep an extra jug or two in the truck because it's much cheaper to buy it at Costco. But other than that, really, DEF, not a concern. The savings in fuel has been well worth it for me coming out of that Ford. And I kind of say this all the time with that power boost, that twin turbo 3.5 out of the Ford. They recommend premium fuel. Otherwise, you don't get the power ratings or the MPG out of that engine if you go to just regular unleaded fuel. So in order for me as a YouTuber, I kind of run these trucks as recommended so that whatever I'm reporting on the channel isn't me cutting corners and then giving kind of like inaccurate data. Not that I'm ultra super scientific with what it is I'm doing here, but I do try to kind of keep it the best that I can in terms of accuracy. So that is my top 5 reasons of why I ended up back with a GMC. Moral of the story, never say never. And honestly, I'm going to tell you that all of these manufacturers have problems. I don't care what dealership you go to, all these dealerships, just cars behind that giant wall that nobody wants you to see behind, because that is where all of those dead cars are awaiting to be serviced. And every one of those cars has a pissed off owner sitting at their house wondering when they're going to get their vehicle back. And you know, it's not any of the manufacturers are immune from having those kinds of issues. So brand loyalty, no more. What's the best product on the market today? That's what I'm going to buy, or at least do my best to buy. And that is kind of where I'm at. So with that said, thank you guys very much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel. I will see you guys tomorrow. Video a day till we hit 100K.